What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Clashing Conferences OG NFC East football show. We got most of the original crew back here with us. We are missing Greg representing the Eagles, but we got Randy here to rep the Cowboys. We got Chris here to rep the Giants, and we got Paul here to rep the Commanders from the original OG crew. Also tonight from we're going to call it the Lotwin Sparrow guest line. We have Patty joining us from the crew to represent the Steelers, and we got Bobby from the Giants Nation show here. One of our favorite guests to have. Honestly, one of the most knowledgeable guests that we have to come in here and keep the rest of these guys on their toes from time to time. We appreciate you having you back here, Bobby. Tell us what you're up to these days before we get started here.
Well, if you haven't seen, I was wondering if you were going to screw up and say Talking Giants, so I could correct you. But left Talking Giants, started Giants Nation show, so we're over a month in, and it feels like I haven't even started a new show because it's been fun. It's been good getting the draft done with, and the Giants got a quarterback, so that's always fun to talk about, and hopefully we can start competing with in the NFC East.
Somebody else here's been happy to talk about it. Yeah, I'll be honest. Chris hasn't gotten into the
No,
quarterback
still missing DJ.
too much, so there might be some withdrawal going on there still. Before we get into two things too deep, I do want to shout out our website, which has been revamped. Please check it out, theclashingconferences.com. Very easy to come join us, hop on a show. We got a new show starting tonight. First recording for the fighting rotation starts tonight. That's going to be some boxing, some UFC, some WWE, all kinds of stuff going on there on the fighting rotation. That'll be out before the end of the week. So, Chris, I want to start with you. You were actually at the draft. You traveled all the way out from Pennsylvania to Green Bay, Wisconsin to be at the draft live. What'd you think? What was your experience like?
I was telling Bobby pre-recording, it was a great experience, man. It was a good time. It was really overwhelming. It was like I told these guys earlier, it's like having a small town like Cochranville, Pennsylvania, and putting a stadium in it. It was just crazy.
That's crazy.
It was, and they weren't prepared. Like nothing ignorant, great people, met a lot of wonderful people. The people that live around the stadium were fantastic, but man, you were jam-packed like sardines, and they were running out of stuff left and right. But just to experience the draft and see all the different, people traveling, all their different teams, just that alone was great. I've never been to Green Bay. I would definitely go back for a game, and I had a great time in the draft, man. And we had a great draft, so it was a great weekend.
Speaking of the draft
That's
of
awesome.
the Giants, real quick before we even get into it, are you wearing your hat backwards in honor of Shador Sanders and his interview with the Giants?
No, I just wear my hat backwards. But yeah, apparently he pissed some people off. He wasn't very happy with I guess they tricked him or something. Bobby, is that the real rumor? Is that what happened? He was looking at
You're supposed to find the difference or what's wrong, and he didn't even try. So
he didn't like it.
No,
They didn't like when he was called out on it being wrong. Again, you hope. I'd like to find this stuff out like earlier before the draft. It seems like the draft happens and then we find out all the information afterwards. You're like, oh well, that makes sense why he didn't go in the first round or top 5. I didn't think he was that good in the first place, so him not going in the first round made sense to me. But I mean, you know how the NFL works, like the quarterback position, like you got to be all in and all there. And if you're half-assing, like I've said this to people, the NFL draft, if you're getting for the draft, that's the easiest time to fake it, even if you're not a hard worker. Just 4 or 5 months, act like a hard worker and fake through it, and then you get to the NFL and see what happens. If you can't even fake it in those 4 or 5 months, then you're definitely not like built for the long-term grind of what the NFL is, especially at the quarterback spot. It's one thing, you're a defensive tackle, go out there and play. Quarterback, it's a every minute of every day job.
Yeah, you got to hire your own PR team to scrub your social media. You got people that can tell you what to say, what not to say. I mean, even the things of walking in and handshakes and eye contact. If you don't have that, that's why the thing with the hat, like people were looking at that. He'd walk around in some of these places with his hat backwards, and they were like, "I'm not even taking that guy just on principle." But I mean,
I heard
Good.
I just heard a crazy story from an executive that said he came in, he was listening to music on his ear pods, had so much cologne that they actually had to walk outside. When he's out there, he was asking what his aspirations are in 5 years. He said, I want to be mayor of the city. And, you think about you got a guy who's played in a crappy conference with his dad as his coach the whole time. The first year that he doesn't do anything, your team is going to be picked alive, the coaching staff, the owners, by his dad on mismanagement of the talent. Like, the more you look into it, the more scary he was as a player. And
Well,
I feel like Cleveland picked another Johnny Manziel.
yeah, I think it's different than John, but it's just like at the end of the day, if he was awesome, like and his film was great and he had all this talent, then it'd be like, okay, but he's good and he's going to help us win games. I just didn't think he was that good. Like his arm talent was average. He was the below average athlete. And if you play like that, you got to be head and shoulders above everyone mentally. And I thought he was good there, but he wasn't amazing there the way like a Joe Burrow or somebody was coming out.
Yeah.
And it just was never a first round quarterback, but he got first overall buzz for, years now. And then I think it became a thing of not people thought he was a fifth round quarterback, but they realized like, well, what are we going to, if we're bringing him in the third round, this is going to create a mess and we're drafting him to be what? And I think at the end of the day, most people didn't think he was a franchise QB, so they didn't think he was worth a first, and they didn't think he was worth a third. And then, you finally get someone in the fifth that took a swing. I think if he didn't have all the baggage that went with him, I think he probably ends up as like a third round quarterback. But I think the baggage pushed him down a couple of rounds.
Well, when you do like in the third round, like he was, like if you was, some people were thinking, one, by that time, if you look, you could go through all 32 teams and be like, do you even need you don't need the noise. Nobody there needs the noise of somebody who's not going to be the starter. And if you pick somebody in a quarterback in the third round, you've got plans for that person. You're not picking a backup. So I don't think he was that talented. Kind of like Bobby said, I don't think he's a good reader on the field. I don't think he's all that well about all that good at reading defenses. So the third round, I loved how Cleveland did get Dylan Gabriel, who got I think he also got to pick number 2 on his jersey, which was Shador's number, and so he got it before Shador. But I think that's pretty awesome.
He's wearing number 12, I think, for Cleveland.
Yeah, for his mentor, Brady.
I gotta tell you the best thing that I heard about. The best thing that I heard about Dylan Gabriel, and if you watch any of the college stuff we did this year, I'm big on Dylan Gabriel, but I don't really see him as a pro prospect. The best thing I heard was somebody was like, Cleveland spent a second rounder on Dylan Gabriel. He's going to be a hell of an offensive coordinator in about 6 years.
Hey, I like
the
Dylan
smartest kid in the room.
He's been around too. I mean, he's got the exact same kind of trajectory that like Bo Nix did, where he went to a couple places before, he did good, and then he ends up at Oregon. And I mean, they just showing up at Oregon, you end up looking like you're automatically in the Heisman race just the day you get there. I thought he did all right.
My biggest worry about Gabriel is we go to the Senior Bowl every year, and we interviewed Tez Johnson, who was the slot wide receiver, who, by the way, is very small. He's like 150 pounds.
154.
And so we interviewed him, and we're like, what's something that like stuck out about Gabriel when he joined Oregon? And he just went on for 2 minutes about how short he was. He's like, you think he's short? He's really short when you meet him in person. So that was like, that's what put me off on Dylan Gabriel is if his 154-pound wide receiver spending 2 minutes talking about how he's short is, then that might give you some issues.
Yeah, and of course you saw the stat that the Cleveland Browns drafted Tez Johnson with the lightest player, and they also got the heaviest player at 464.
The Browns got Tez Johnson too?
Yeah, I think he was there because he was there for he's 154 pounds. I think it was the smallest
seventh round pick.
Yeah, at him, and then they also ended up getting like the fattest guy out there. He's 464 apparently. I thought that was pretty funny.
That Browns quarterback room is just going to be so crowded in training camp, and like, how do you get reps to all those guys? And
I think it's reality TV just waiting to happen. Like you just throw a camera in there on those 5 guys, it'll end up being 4 and maybe 1 on the practice squad, so 3 actually on the roster.
But for like the Hard Knocks special edition.
Yeah, but for like 4 months, it would be just ridiculous.
I think you could say the same thing about one of the teams right here in their quarterback room. I'd love to
That's
see a
true.
reality show with
Me
Jameis
too.
Winston and Russell Wilson and a rookie quarterback. Give me that.
Tommy DeVito.
Well, here's the thing: is
Yeah.
you mentioned Tommy
He
DeVito, and
won it out, right? Didn't he ask to be
it's
released?
no, I don't, or at least not publicly.
Not
Yeah,
publicly.
but here's the thing: is you guys been to go to a training camp practice? The four-string quarterback doesn't get any snaps, right? And so they're going to have Flacco and Pickett battling for the QB1, taking those snaps, and then you're going to have Dylan Gabriel taking the QB3 because they drafted him a bet. Like, I don't understand what they're even going to do with Shador, besides letting him be split scout team quarterback snaps in the regular season. But yeah, like with the Giants, it's like, okay, Tommy DeVito will get cut eventually. It's pretty easy. With the Browns, I don't know what they do.
Yeah, it feels like desperation. When you look at the Browns and everything they did this year, it just feels like a desperation move to get anyone who's a quarterback and put them on a roster.
So why don't
Just
we
seems extreme.
why don't we go through?
I was going to say they're taking the opposite Steelers approach. Instead of bringing in any quarterback, they're bringing in all the quarterbacks, whereas the Steelers are bringing in none of the quarterbacks. So,
Yeah, Paul, I think you were getting
How was
to
Aaron
it. Let's
Rodgers'
get into
launch
the
day in
actual
98?
drafts of these teams instead of Cleveland for a little bit here. And I want to let's keep going with the Giants. We haven't gotten into the quarterback that you guys actually took. What did you guys? I mean, your first pick was an easy one, I think. I think it was projected you were going to take Carter. I think it was an easy pick to take Carter. He's a hell of a player. What'd you guys think about that? And what'd you guys think about trading up to get a second first round pick and getting your quarterback of the future possibly?
All I want to say is obviously my biggest fear was them being like, we have to do something to save our job and then risking it and trading up. Like if Cam Ward would have fell to 3, I would have been happy. I think that's what I was saying prior. But to get Abdul Carter at 1, I think the best player in the draft to add to our already, like our defense was like our secondary stunk, but we addressed that. I think Shane had a great offseason. I think he had a draft, and I think he made some great moves for the secondary. So to get Carter to add to that defense, which was leading the league in sacks, and then to trade up, which Bobby, I'll let you explain this a hell of a lot better than me, but to trade up the way we did to get Dart, we didn't give up much, and I'm very happy with Dart. And Scatterbo, that's my 3 favorite parts of that draft because the add
He's a
him.
hell of a player.
Scatterbo was my favorite one. I was pissed that he went. I mean, I don't really care if he goes to the Giants. I mean, obviously, I don't want him going to the Cowboys or the Eagles. I think he's a great player and a good kid. If you can find something where he can be useful for the team, I think he can be a really good addition to the locker room and one of those like fan favorite kind of kids that if he has to might take a little bit of steam off of Neighbors if he starts to kind of get diva-ish a little bit. I think he can kind of bring the perception of this new Giants football team kind of into a more positive. So, I mean, I love Cam Scatterbo. I'm not sure he's going to last in the NFL, but I'm a ride until he doesn't, though. I'm a big
Dude runs
fan
in
of
the
him.
telephone poles. I don't think he's going to have any problem lasting in the NFL. I think he'll be a great one.
You never know. You never know. I mean, what happened to Bo Jackson?
Well, and I think with Scatterbo, there's not going to be these expectations to be their lead back every game. Like they're going to split. But like I agree. I think the Giants had a smart offseason, right? I think what they did in free agency was smart. Abdul Carter, if they weren't going to get Cam Ward, he is who I wanted. I didn't want Shador or Jackson Dart at pick 3. I would have taken Abdul Carter over Travis Hunter. I really think Abdul Carter's that good. And then I remember, to start day 3 of the draft, I was like, the 2 guys I want with the next pick are either Cam Scatterbo or Marcus Bell. Well, they got them with their 4th and 5th. So as good as the offseason could be for the Giants, the reality is what matters is the quarterback and Jackson Dart and how that ends up working out. Like Chris said, I don't think they gave up much to get him. It just depends on how good he is. Do they force him along? Because coming from that Ole Miss offense, it's just not real life, some of the stuff that they have them doing, where it's just very much first read, make a throw. Now, he's aggressive. He's got good talent. In fact, just talent-wise, arm talent and legs, I think the most comparative player in the NFL is Dak. If you remember Dak coming out of Mississippi State, where it's like the arm talent's good, but it's not like the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. And then the legs are good, but it's not like someone like Lamar or whoever. But it's just how do they bring him along? Because what he's going to be asked to do in the NFL is just nowhere near what he was doing in college at Ole Miss. So they could do all the smart moves. It just really depends on Jackson Dart. But it's also a situation where you don't know when he's ever going to play because you have Russ, and then I don't think they'll go straight from Russ to Dart if Russ is not doing well. They're going to go to Jameis after that. So I think at most you see him for about 4 games this year, and I think how he looks in those 4 games will depend on if they keep their jobs. And if he doesn't play at all, that means the season's going well enough to where they keep their jobs anyways.
That's what I wanted to add. That's my favorite
I was a little
part.
disappointed when you just listed the running quarterback and you stopped at Lamar and you said nothing about Daniel Jones.
I laughed because I wanted to, but I didn't want to be the one that brought it up. I didn't.
Well,
want
he's not like he's not as good as a runner as Daniel Jones or Jaden Daniels.
There you go. There you go.
But he can. But he can run.
He can, and he'll run
It's
you
just,
over. You got to learn how to slide. The dude's gonna give me a heart attack the way he just.
I used to get excited about that with Daniel Jones, and then after like 2 neck injuries and 3 ankle sprains, I kind of got over.
I think the Dallas
guy
game
who runs you over.
The Dallas game, when he tried to plow over 2 guys to score, like that did it for me. And then when he's hurt, they kept running him, like they just kept running him. But I like the fact that he doesn't have to play, and I like the fact that did you see the little thing they asked him who he wants to like learn from? And they asked him in an interview, and he said, I would love to play with Jameis Winston. I don't know if you've seen that, dude.
I did. That scared me a little bit because watching Jameis Winston play you'll be aggressive at least, which, again, I always wanted my quarterbacks to err on the side of aggression instead of being conservative. But
Jameis Winston plays blindfolded. He's just like, whatever, I'm throwing it.
Yeah, talk about just trusting what they tell him to do. That's Jameis. Like, all right, I'm going to throw it no matter what. So, again, there's a lot to work to do with him. And in reality, that's the only thing that matters is their 4th year on the job, they took a quarterback, and that's what they're going to be judged on. Is that quarterback good?
Yeah, and Bobby, I think at the end of the day, you hit it right on the head of like, I'm a Daboll guy. I've been a Daboll guy. I actually really like him, but this is the true test of, are you a quarterback? Like,
guru?
Is he the quarterback whisperer that people think he is? I think he is, but this is really the test. Now, I don't know if the schedule is brutal this year. Let's be honest. Like they have no favors with the schedule. Like I just hope that upper management, sees some key things from him to keep him around. But if they don't, like, is there a scenario where Shane stays and Daboll goes?
I hope not, because Shane's the one I don't like, because I think he's the one who's built a bad. Like, let's forget this draft. In 3 drafts, who's the best 3 players that Joe Shane has drafted? It's Malik Neighbors, and then Kayvon Thibodeau is like second. And a lot of Giants fans don't even like Kayvon Thibodeau. But that's, the reality of what he is. So we'll see how this draft turns out and how last year's draft develops. But I hope not, because, I mean, you hear the rumors that they drafted him because of Brian Daboll. In fact, there was people in the front office who wanted Shedeur Sanders, and Brian Daboll was the one who overruled on that. So
he was watching him for 2 years or so, they were saying. They said he had his eye on him for 2 years.
Yeah, so again, I hope that Brian Daboll gets to coach him at some point, and we get to see what he is. And like you said, it's up to Brian Daboll now. You wanted him. He's not the talent that Josh Allen is that you had before, but he's a lot better than all the other quarterbacks you've ever worked with in the past too. So you mold him and make him good. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, Patty, I think if you keep making these kind of Daboll takes, I'm pretty sure you're not going to be invited back on this pod. Just letting you know.
I think he's a fantastic guy.
Giants to win. I didn't say I want the Giants to win. I just said that I like Brian Daboll as somebody who has watched him since he's been at Bama with that loaded QB room, and all of them went on to have, besides Mac Jones, went on to have decent NFL careers.
He's 3-2-1 against DC, I think, too.
We'll see.
Thanks.
Paul, you want to go next? What did you think about the Commanders draft?
A little bit of it to me seemed reactive, and I'm fine with that. The player I actually wanted was who the Eagles got, Jihad. But I don't know if we can put the name Jihad on a Washington, D.C. jersey. I don't think it's going to go over, and I don't need that extra audience in there as well. But, we took I really like the offensive tackle that we took with the Giants getting Abdul Carter and then the Eagles getting another big linebacker as well. I think we're going to need it. The number one priority for the Redskins has to be to protect Jaden, because like Bobby was talking about with Jackson Dart and all that, every time that boy takes off with the ball, all I'm worried about is what's going to happen. Is he going to, because he does not know how to slide.
Right.
He tried it a little bit last year and he's getting better, but he got destroyed at LSU because he didn't slide. So we need somebody to protect him as much as possible. Our cornerback that we got, not quarterback, cornerback,
Quarter.
Amos, I thought was great too. We had a huge need
Yeah,
there, and
that
I
was a
thought
good
he
pick.
thought that he filled that void perfectly. And I was told by my oldest son, Anthony, also a member of the Clashing Conferences family, to give a shout out to our 7th round pick. I don't even know his name, but the running back. I can't remember even who it was.
I got it pulled up right now. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt.
Yes.
Nice.
I think we were hoping at some point that we were going to have the Tennessee running back fall to us. I think that was kind of a pipe dream. But
Samson.
yeah,
Gotta talk to Samson.
little half-baked reference there for anybody who's ever watched. But I was happy with that. So I'm really pleased with our draft. There was nothing mind-blowing about any of it. We addressed the needs that we have. There's nothing, we didn't reach for anything, and there wasn't anything that, anybody's raising an eyebrow about. And thank God we didn't draft Shedeur Sanders for any freaking reason. Otherwise, I mean, I'll give it to the Giants. I mean, I was very, very impressed with the draft, and we have given Chris enough crap for 2 years now about how they do draft and how hyped he is after the draft. And then we get into week 8 and 9 and it's 2 and 7 every year, and we take it back to the draft and things like that. So I think you had pretty much a foolproof draft this year. I don't think you could have done anything better.
I have to say that nationally, all 4 of the NFC East teams were graded very well by national media. I looked it up today at 4 different websites just to see, what the general, thoughts were of what everybody thought of your 4 drafts. And nobody had any of your 4 teams graded less than a B at like ESPN, NFL.com, CBS, and Fox.
Yeah, I saw the
All
same
B's are
thing,
better.
Mike.
So, only thing I was going to say is I didn't think your 1st round pick, Randy, was all that great. I was a little surprised. But I don't. Jerry Jones somehow in his crystal ball, he picks winners. Like he's been doing it for a decade somehow. So I mean, maybe he'll be a diamond in the rough. But I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
Do you want me to tell you how Jerry Jones picks winners with his crystal ball? I've got it. I got this preconceived thing here written down.
He doesn't take his Alzheimer's pill, and then he just picks whatever colors look good on the paper.
I thought it was something to do with size, but I don't want to
talk about that. He just takes guys named Tyler on the offensive line.
That's true.
Something different, Chris.
Wrong size. But also a reason that Randy,
I just caught that.
Also a reason Randy will never play for the Cowboys. But yes, let's talk about your draft.
So the last year was a very injury prone year for us, a very injury laden year. I don't know, who knows what the year would have been without Dak getting hurt, without Lawrence getting hurt, without whatever that guy's name is that starts with an O that I always mispronounce. The guy that I couldn't remember when he got hurt. Anyway, a lot of big players were hurt last year for the Cowboys. In the end of it, what Jerry Jones did was incredibly unsexy, but it was what was needed. And I think that there's a saying that I love.
That's actually what I should have said, because yes, I'm not saying it was a bad pick, but it was just like, oh, okay.
It's very unsexy. Well, there's a saying that says that amateur generals study tactics, professionals study logistics. Napoleon once said his army marches on his stomach. What this draft was a logistics draft. Listen to me. You'll hear me. This is a logistics draft. This was a draft that is made up of building your team with very unsexy things, the things that aren't flashy, but you have to do that sometimes. You got to build your lines. You got to do things that are not flashy. Dallas has enough flashy players. Dallas has stars. What they need is people around him in depth. And I feel like they did a pretty good job. Jerry Jones usually well over surprises you in the year. And I feel like that could be this year again. You look at the offensive line. What did the Eagles mainly change or work on the couple of years leading up to the Super Bowl? Was their offensive line? I think of the Patriots back in the 2000s. Offensive line, defensive line was always solid. To me, again, I looked at these drafts and I'm like, again, I know you guys only had 5 picks in Washington, but you guys made great use of those 5 picks. I got to agree with you, Mike. This has been a great draft, I believe, for all 4 teams. It's nothing flashy in general on any of them. It was just really good picks, really high value picks.
Come on, we got some flashy picks, man.
Dart, I don't know. I mean, even like your pick on defensive play, I agree. I think he was the best player available. I think he's better than Hunter. I think Hunter was a flashy pick. I think Hunter's fun. It's exciting. You got a receiver that wants to play defense. You guys went with the safe bet. And I feel like in the end of it, there was a lot of safe bets. I got a lot of optimism. I love the Jaden Blue pick, running back. I feel like that's going to be interesting. Did you guys see our 7th-round pick? I was just reading. I don't even know much about him. I was just reading up on him today. Jay Toya, this massive defensive tackle. But yeah, I just feel like there were some good picks on that side. I really wanted to get Ashton Gentry. I really, really wanted a Zeke like thing, but obviously that wasn't in the cards. That wasn't in the cards, and I'm hopeful that Jerry's much smarter than I am. So, as far as your Giants pick, in the end of it,
hard thing, no.
I was reading today, Chris. Giants are by ESPN after the draft still ranked 32nd in power rankings, and I'm just curious what you think of that.
Who cares?
I don't know. I guess.
I think the reality is when it depends on what you're looking at with their schedule and stuff. But we just talked about the Browns. Like, man, I don't think they got that much better in this draft and didn't really have money to do anything in free agency, and they got to get rid of pieces. So, I could go through a handful of teams that I think they're better at. The issue with the Giants, though, is until Jackson Dart plays and proves it, they should have the 4th best quarterback in the division, and probably the 4th best team. So they've made improvements, but it's just they're going against their division and their schedule this year. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It is actually brutal. Like, they have the hardest schedule in the NFL.
Well, Patty brought that up. So what are they playing? Are we what is our division playing? Which division from the AFC?
The AFC West. So you have the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Chargers, and the Raiders, who made improvements at quarterback.
Interesting.
And then added Ashton Gentry. They play the 49ers, who finished last place in their division, who, that's not a normal last place team. So they just kind of have a brutal, and then we have to play the NFC North. So the 3 teams that won double-digit games last year in the Lions, Packers, and Vikings, and then the Bears are no easy win either. At least on paper, they're not.
I mean, especially after that amazing number 1 pick in tight end there that they got. That guy went from a 2nd-round pick to the top 10 in like 3 or 4 days. I don't know what happened.
I don't know what kind of rankings you're looking at, but absolutely false statement.
No, he was manifested.
False. That guy was never Loveland was never a 2nd-round pick in anybody's board.
Ben Johnson could pick Cody Gentry in the 1st round and be like, he's going to get that dude the ball.
Mike,
you should have taken Tyler Warren.
I got to ask you this, Mike, because every year I fall in love with the Bears. Every year I fall in love with the Bears on paper, and I'm like, this is going to be the year. And then they just shit the bed. What's going to happen with Chicago this year?
I'm hopeful that a new regime coaching regime is going to do something. We have had some of the most awful coaching experiments in the past decade. I mean, we're bringing guys in from the CFL and just nobodies. I mean, it's awful. The people that we've thought, hey, this guy's going to lead our team to something good. Ben Johnson seems legit. He seems like a very good offensive mind. We definitely have offensive pieces on that team now. We'll see if he can do anything with them.
Mike, you know what I think about very often? And my dad's from Chicago, so I've always found myself rooting for the Bears. But I think about how, one thing kind of changes the trajectory of a team. We went from Trubisky leading a team to 10-6, a playoff game where they lose on a double doink field goal. If that field goal goes in, Mitch Trubisky probably
still
escalates
the
the Bears.
quarterback there.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy to think about to me. Like, how
Dude,
close they've been over the years. Like, even last year, they were 5-2, and then the Hail Mary happens against Washington, and
And
then they
then we
can't win a
lost
game after
games
that.
because of blocked field goals and missed
Like,
kicks, and we
Patty,
had the worst luck in the world of any team
Pat,
in the NFL last year.
Patty, it is so hard for me to take you seriously when you look like you just came from the set of a bee in a bug's life right now. Like,
actually,
dude,
Randy, what
that's
you're
your.
what you're incorrect about is actually I'm playing the character of Jerry Seinfeld from the Bee Movie in the local play. You can come check it out at the
Nice.
Troy Amphitheater
Nice.
in May.
So, hey, I did want to jump on the Eagles. I'm glad they're not here because I would not like to hear about their A-rated, A-plus rated draft all day. But
I wanted to
they're
answer your question. I didn't even get to answer your question. But go
okay.
ahead.
Answer it away.
No, go
Well,
for
I
it. Get on the Eagles. We need to talk
I
about the
just
Eagles. Go ahead.
it is really interesting. I was just looking through their losses on defense this year, and it doesn't stop here. But Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Darius Slay, C.J. Gardner Johnson are all gone. Like those are huge playmakers for the Eagles the past 2 years. Huge playmakers. I know they went in and did target some good defensive players in the draft, and that's obviously what they need to do. But it will be interesting to see their defense last year. I don't care who says what in the Super Bowl was
The MVP.
lights out, lights out. Everybody was giving Jalen Hurts props. That defense was unreal.
Yes.
And they
And they had a
lost
$43 million pass rusher on the bench in Bryce Hoff.
and they lost four of their big playmakers. It's going to be interesting to watch. I don't know. I'm very curious to see whether they lose some of their homogenous, whatever their the word I'm looking, their mojo, I guess, going into this offseason
I absolutely
or this
think
on
they're
season.
absolutely going to take a step back, and that's not even to be ignorant. I mean, they won the Super Bowl. They're going to take a step back. I'm hoping the Redskins take a step back. I mean, they went to the NFC Championship. I don't see them going there again, and I don't see them going to the Super Bowl. I still think Dallas sucks, and I think the Giants can be better, but I don't. They're not contending for the division, and I think they can fall somewhere in the middle. I hope they. My goal this year somewhere around 500. Let Jackson Dart play a little bit at the end of the year. Neighbors is going to have a great year, I feel like, with the guys airing it out with him. Even, Winston, Hyatt. I mean, I really wish the Giants would have got another receiver somewhere. I wanted to pick up somebody like Cooper Kupp. And my reason is, I mean, you got Neighbors. I like Robinson. I always like Slayton. I love Slayton. I'm mad that he changed his number. It's like the only jersey I have on the current
I know
team.
playing for a team for 6 years and then changing
Dude,
your
I
number
bought
is
this.
so
I
weird.
bought this his rookie. I got this for Christmas his rookie year, and his rookie year was good. He had a really good rookie year with Daniel Jones, and I got it his rookie year. And I think he owes me. He should send me one or sign this one or something. But
For the Giants season, as much as it's be competitive and stuff, in reality, the most exciting thing for me is Jackson Dart
Dart, the
playing,
defense
even though
though,
I don't
man.
want him to play. So
Right,
it's gonna
right,
be
right.
it's gonna be weird trying to be patient when
But
in reality, come December, I'm gonna want Jackson Dart under.
Well,
listen,
so
and I'm
is New
not,
York. New York as a whole is not going to be very patient.
and I'm not.
No,
It's going to take.
we'll see how much they cave to outside pressure if they don't win enough games when December rolls around.
I feel like you have to be patient, and it's hard for how bad it's been. But like the Steelers last year, the whole problem with them making the playoffs but not being good enough to win anything once they're there. I mean, I'm not saying the Giants are making the playoffs, but Russell Wilson, that is a fun QB room. I like the QB room. They're going to work hard. They're going to play well. They're just not superstars. They're not going to carry the team. I think the defense can carry the team. I think the offense can play average, and the defense could be great this year, and we can win decent amount of games, man. I don't think we're going to contend for the division. That's my
Chris
take
and
on the
Bobby,
Giants.
let me throw you Giants guys a question from the chat here. We got something from from Trey. Trey, first of all, we're not going to mention your Bears Packers comment here, but I will mention your Giants comment. That says, with that Giants quarterback room, why not wait a year for next year in the draft? In his opinion, that's what they should have done. I kind of agree with that. If you're going to sit Dart all year anyway, why not sit it out until next year and when it's expected to be a much richer draft?
Can I take that one first, Bobby? Got to take
Yeah,
that one
go
first?
for it.
I would just say because I don't think we're going to be bad enough to get a high draft pick. I'm not saying we're going to be good. It's kind of that Russell Wilson effect. I think they'll be somewhere closer to 500. They're going to be better. Maybe not quite that good, but and it's not even going to be a reflection of them playing bad. It might be because of the division being so tough and the other teams. And, we have a very young football team too. So if you wait and you can't get up there next year, then what do? You can't wait. If you like the guy, you got to make the move, and I think they made a great move. That's my opinion.
Well, you never know where you're going to pick. Like the Giants, they had a terrible season in 2023. So did 5 other teams, and we had the first time in a long time where QBs went 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And then this past year they have even a worse year, but it's a year where a bunch of teams win only 3 games, and they're picking third in a 1 QB class at the top. So that, but even like next year's class, which again I'm not that far ahead, but I do look at those way too early mock drafts. I'm a sucker for him. And Arch, I don't think is coming out, but the guy I see at the top is like Drew Nussmeier or Drew Aller and Garrett Nussmeier, who I don't think those guys would have been the top guy in this class. So I kind of, again, I'm not sitting here saying I was like the biggest Jackson Dart fan, but I was surprised how little they had to trade up to get into the first round, especially for what the Falcons
very little,
to the Rams.
Bobby, I also think the big point here from anyone on the outside that people aren't looking at is Brian Daboll needed to draft a quarterback because his job has been on the line. Now, I'm not saying that's right or that it's going to work out, but this whole time he's been with guys that he hasn't drafted, that he didn't want. Now he has no more excuses. This is his guy, and whether it works out is on him or not. And I think that's just the simple answer at the end of the day, is that they couldn't go through this draft without drafting somebody that Brian Daboll loved.
Yeah, and again, like for me and Chris, we're going to be here on the Giants for the long term. For Daboll and Shane, like you said, they couldn't go 4 years without drafting a quarterback.
And that's why I was happy they weren't desperate and traded up, because nobody knew. I can't sit there and tell you I know what quarterbacks to take. NFL people get it wrong all the time. I like Caleb Williams, not to dig on him, Mike, but as of right now, he wasn't the best quarterback in the draft last year, and he went 1. It doesn't mean you're going to get the best quarterback. We might have got the best quarterback in the draft. We don't know yet. So, and it takes a couple years to find out, in my opinion. So,
Patty, we haven't gotten into your Steelers yet. I have no idea. I was not prepared for this. What did you guys do? How was your grades nationally? Did people like it, not like it?
I think it was like usually I see like anywhere between like a B and an A minus, like kind of depending on the draft. I love the kid from Oregon, Harmon, the D tackle from Oregon.
Big guy.
I think he's an absolute stud. I think the Steelers have really been lacking that inside run stuffer that, what they had with Casey Hampton, and then they had, a few years later. So I think they've really been lacking that. So I'm happy with him. They didn't have a second round pick. They traded it to Seattle in the DK trade. So no second round pick. And then third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, I really liked. Caleb Johnson's a nice change of pace back, especially after losing Najee Harris. I think he's going to end up taking a bulk of the carries by the end of the year. The Steelers traditionally don't sign running backs, even with Le'Veon Bell. Obviously, that was a big time in the running back market, and they weren't going to sign him anyway. But they traditionally don't re-sign running backs, so you got to think that Warren is gone after this year on the 5th year. So, drafting Caleb Johnson I really like, and Iowa knows how to run the football. And then they drafted Yahya Black and Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State, who was an absolute menace this year. I'm really hoping that they play him more in the 3-tech or 5-tech than an edge guy. I think he'll get some edge snaps, but realistically, with his build, I'd love for him to be a Cam Hayward replacement. They lost Larry Ogunjobi last year. Like, I'd love for him to be a Cam Hayward type of guy. He's not that big yet, so we'll see. I think he's going to kind of mix between edge and that 5-tech that they play in the 3-4. And then we'll see on Will Howard. I like Will Howard. I like his physical abilities, but it's a 6th-round quarterback. That pretty much tells me it's the Aaron Rodgers show. And not that I'm super happy about that, but kind of at this point, it is what it is. I hope it's not Mason Rudolph. I've been through that chapter of my life before. But, I'm really happy with. I never doubt the Steelers. Like that's the one thing. Like people can talk crap about them about not winning in the playoffs and everything like that. And that's fine. But the Steelers rarely miss in drafts. In my lifetime, the first round picks that I can think of that they missed on were like Jarvis Jones and Kenny Pickett, and like that might be it. Limas Swede, who was like a second round pick, and like outside of that, I really don't see too many misses. I think you got to see Broderick Jones take another step this year, so I'm happy with their draft for sure.
How
Patty,
about
would
Chase
you?
Claypool? Chase Claypool.
He was phenomenal his rookie year. Hard to count him as a
Yeah.
miss. And then you traded him. And then hold on 1 second. It's over. And then you traded him to
That's
Chicago
yeah.
for
We
the
didn't need to say
32nd
that.
pick and
We
got
didn't need
Joey
to talk
Porter
about
Jr.
that.
out of him. And got Joey Porter Jr. out of him. So my bad, Chris. Go.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
Congrats.
I just wanted to ask you. I just never got to ask you. Would you have kept Fields? Would you have worked with him? Would you have kept him?
Yeah. I think that there was so much up in the air. I like Justin Fields, and
I
I'm
like him.
actually I don't like the Jets. Just where I grew up, and my friends, I have some
I hate
cocky
'em.
Jet fans, which is crazy to say for a franchise that hasn't won anything in 70 years. But you know, I would have kept him, but at the same time, I think there was talks that they were either going to go after a rookie or they were going to go after somebody, and he didn't want to be in a situation where he wasn't the, guy. And good for the Jets. They usually make some bad decisions, but good for them. They didn't even draft another quarterback.
Right.
Like I thought for sure they would be a
True.
team later in the draft to take a fourth, fifth,
Sanders.
sixth round guy, and they said no. Justin Fields, like he's yours, And Paul's going to disagree. I might have been the guy to take a shot in the fourth or fifth on Shador, but I'm happy with Will Howard.
I thought
So
quite a
we'll
few
see.
times he was going to get picked. I kept saying, "Man, this got to be it, right? This got to be it, right?" And it just
Yeah,
kept
Chris.
it kept going and going and like Raiders a couple times. I'm like, it's got to be it, right? Like it was.
I
It was
wanted him
blowing
to
my
be
mind.
Mr. Irrelevant so bad just for the name.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
I
That'd
mean,
have been
I
cool.
totally understand the draft grades on him, and now all the stuff that's coming out. I totally understand why he fell, and I'm not going to argue about why he fell, whether that's his personality or everything like this. But to me, the things that I look at that after the fourth round, you would have at least taken a peek at of let's be honest, Jackson State was nothing before he got there, and then they turned into something. And you can talk crap about the Big 12 and Colorado all you want, but that was a 2 to 3 win team that somewhat turned things around. And, I understand all the criticism that comes with that. But at the same time, like at that point in the draft, I think the good outweighs the bad. Like, what do you have to lose at that point? If he turns out great, he turns out great. If he doesn't, you cut him and you move on. Like, so I get it though, and I'm not a huge supporter, but I think that he caught a little bit too much outside flack. But we'll see. The football is going to be what talks, and it is what it is.
If there's anyone I thought was best ready to use him, it would have been Tomlin. So I was surprised, like you said, even like fourth round not taking him.
Right.
Well, especially in like an Arthur Smith offense where he's going to turn around and run a lot of boot, run a lot of short game, run a lot of, play action pass, which is kind of what Arthur Smith hangs his hat on. For as bad of a head coach as he is, he took Ryan Tannehill to the AFC Championship because of Henry and just being able to use that short passing game. So that's something I like. But that also does very much play into a Rodgers playbook. With like that's kind of where Rodgers has lived his whole life. So I think they're just very much settled on Aaron Rodgers, and it is what it is.
So I got one more question.
Getting Glade on time,
I
broski.
see the grin on your face. So we can just bring it.
I'm excited.
So this year, who's going to be starting at Indianapolis? Daniel Jones or Richardson?
Daniel Jones.
Indianapolis Jones, Danny Dimes.
That's right.
You think
Richardson's
so?
done.
Tyler Warren's going to make him a Pro Bowl quarterback.
All I
don't know. I think it's going to be
this.
hard to upset Richardson yet.
All I gotta say is this: if he makes it to a playoff round again, I don't want to hear no more shit out of any of you guys again about Daniel Jones. None.
Dude, Richardson is so frustrating because he's one of those guys that you look at and he makes a play and you're like, wow, that's one of the best plays I've ever seen. And then literally the next snap, you're like, wow, that's one of the worst plays that I've ever seen.
The worst part
And
for
you're
him.
like, what am I supposed to do with this guy? Like
Bobby can vouch for this. Daniel Jones is going to work his ass off. So that's probably why they brought him in there. He wanted a shot. he got a shot. He's going to work, and they say he don't work. Richardson's going to have to work now. Or he's going to be gone.
I think they're done with him in Indy. I think
my
they're
opinion.
not saying that, but I think they've shown that they're kind of done with him.
Well, Bobby, before we get out of here, I want to give you a chance to tell everybody where they can find the new Giants Nation show and where to find you out there.
Yeah, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Giants Nation show. It should pop up for you. Trying to grow it back. It was a fun draft month, and I'm excited to. I'm more excited to see you guys on Thanksgiving, maybe even before then.
Hey, we look forward to having you back every chance we get, and we appreciate you having you tonight. And my last thing before we get out of here, we had some fun on the last basketball episode where we had no Knicks fans. Everybody got a shot at the end to get their Brunson slander out, which has been a topic here. There's no Eagles fans tonight. We couldn't get a single one to join us. Anybody got anything negative they want to send us out on about the Eagles?
Go ahead, Randy.
I was just saying,
no, I don't want to hear about
Jalen Hurts. I feel like you.
Or are you gonna do voodoo on Saquon Barkley again?
Chris, I thought you would have been the first one to jump at that.
No negativity.
Saying that the Eagles have the fourth best starting quarterback in the division.
Not yet.
Could be this year.
Soon.
Could be this year.
All right.
Just wait till they outlaw the
I do want to take.
Go, Randy.
Yeah, I do want to take one quick shot. Again, Eagles have lost a lot. Those players on offense are getting older. Again, it's hard to talk bad about them. They've drafted so well and played so well the past couple of years. But it's a new year. Hoorah. Let's go. Everyone but the Eagles.
Go G-Men.
It is a new year. I can't wait to get together to get back together in the fall with this crew. We're going to see you all in a couple months. Thanks for joining us for the draft show. Bobby, thank you for joining us. Patty, thank you for joining us. We will see everybody again soon.
See y'all.
Boom, boom, boom.